Welcome to the Deep Dive. We're the place you come to really unpack the stories behind the headlines, pulling back that curtain on the mindsets and the strategies that genuinely shape our world.
That's right.
And today, wow, we are tackling a story that might just completely redefine how you think about wealth, about influence, and, about personal brand. We're talking Dr. Dre.
Mm-hmm. The legend.
A legend, absolutely. From Compton, hip-hop pioneer, now reportedly worth, something like $850 million. Just staggering.
Incredible number.
But here's the part that really makes you stop and think, the truly surprising part. A massive chunk of that fortune. It didn't come from the usual stuff like music tours or even just record sales alone. It's largely from headphones.
Headphones. Yeah, it almost sounds mundane when you put it like that, but it's anything but.
Right. Think about that for a second. How does a global music icon, someone who literally shaped the sound of an entire generation, take what seems like a pretty simple idea, Beats by Dre, and turn it into this multi-billion-dollar empire?
It's fascinating.
It really flies in the face of so many common expectations for musicians, doesn't it? We usually picture artists making their money from their art, right? Performances, maybe some traditional sponsorships.
That's his typical playbook, yeah.
But Dre's journey, it just took this completely different path, almost diagonal, you could say.
Yeah, a swerve into a whole new lane.
So our mission today really is to uncover the mindset, the thinking, and the actual strategic blueprint behind what has to be one of the most iconic tech and cultural moves in, recent history.
Absolutely.
And this isn't just about, how someone got rich. It's about how they thought differently. It's digging into that core paradox, a hip-hop pioneer who redefined sound, culture, and business with one bold idea. And it wasn't even a new music genre.
It was something else entirely.
We've gone through a fantastic stack of sources for this deep dive, really dug in, and we promise it's going to be a thorough, but also, I think, a really engaging exploration that might challenge some of your own assumptions about what success looks like.
Well, what's immediately fascinating when you start looking at the material, and it's a point that comes up again and again in our sources, is how Dre and his team, specifically Jimmy Iovine too, they didn't really set out to just sell a piece of hardware.
Right.
Or even just, better sound quality in the traditional sense. They packaged a feeling, a whole lifestyle really, into a pair of headphones.
A feeling. Yeah, that's a great way to put it.
And this subtle shift, but it's actually profound, this redefinition focusing on perception over just product specs.
Yeah.
That's absolutely fundamental to understanding how Beats took off.
So it wasn't about comparing frequency responses or anything like that?
Not primarily, no.
Yeah.
It signals right from the start that their whole approach wasn't about following the established path, not in music, not really in tech either. It was about carving out this entirely new space where, culture and commerce just collided. It goes way beyond your typical celebrity endorsement, just slapping a name on something.
Yeah.
This was about creating a whole new category almost. The mindset shift from survival to ownership.
Okay, so let's start at the beginning then. Because a really consistent thread in all our sources, it suggests Dr. Dre's relationship with money, with wealth itself, was just fundamentally different right from the get-go. It wasn't about piling up cash for status from day one.
Exactly. You look at Andre Young, born 1965, grew up in Compton, and that environment, it was incredibly challenging. His early life wasn't really about chasing riches in the way we might think.
No.
It was much more about a desperate attempt to escape the things money couldn't buy. Stuff like peace, respect, just basic safety.
Yeah.
Our sources describe money back then in that place as either fast and dirty or nowhere to be found. So as a teenager, Dre wasn't like dreaming of mansions and Lamborghinis.
He was just trying to get by.
Pretty much. He was literally navigating a world of, gunshots and broken dreams. So this isn't your simple rags to riches story where the only goal is just getting more stuff. It speaks to something much deeper, more primal almost.
That is a powerful distinction. So that early environment, steeped in struggle, maybe scarcity, it profoundly shaped how he even defined wealth.
Right.
It wasn't about just accumulating for status, like you said. It was about control, security, building something that was solid, truly his own.
Something immutable.
Yeah, exactly. It really makes you pause and consider, doesn't it? How do our own earliest experiences with money, or maybe the lack of it, how does that fundamentally shape our financial thinking, our philosophy, even when we hit massive success later on?
It's a constant undercurrent,
It
isn't it?
really feels like it in his story.
And you see that stark contrast as his career took off. I mean, by the late 90s, Dre was already a giant in music. Co-founded NWA, huge solo career, and crucially, discovering and producing artists like Eminem, transforming careers.
Yeah, Midas touch.
Absolutely. He had millions by then. He had undeniable status.
Yeah.
But, and this is what our sources highlight, he still didn't quite possess a certain kind of, let's say, ultimate control over his creations or his financial destiny. He'd earned a tremendous amount, yes, but he hadn't truly owned things in the way he later would. And that distinction, earning income versus owning assets, that becomes absolutely critical to where he goes next.
Right. And that leads us straight into what so many see as the definitive financial turning point for him. This fierce, unwavering commitment to owning, not just, earning a paycheck or a royalty check.
It's a different mindset.
Totally. It wasn't about just getting a bigger income stream. It was about securing an undeniable stake in something tangible, something real. There's this quote from our sources. It's incredibly revealing here. "I've never done anything just for the money. It has to feel right. It has to be mine."
It has to be mine. That says it all, really.
That sentiment, that fierce desire for personal ownership, it truly feels like the seed, the very beginning of the idea for Beats.
And it's such a fundamental departure from the typical artist model, isn't it?
Yeah.
Where the focus is so often on the next record deal, maybe some endorsements, touring revenue, that kind of thing.
Usual routes.
Think about 2006. While a lot of his peers were out there chasing, lucrative sponsorships or just focused on boosting album sales, Dre and Jimmy Iovine were apparently obsessing over something much more fundamental.
It was.
The just awful quality of how people were actually consuming music. They saw kids listening to these meticulously produced studio tracks music artists poured their souls into through these cheap, disposable, $5 earbuds.
The ones you get free on airplanes, basically.
Yeah, exactly. And those things just completely obliterated the depth, the texture, the whole emotional punch that artists like Dre intended. It was, to them, it felt almost sacrilegious, like a violation of the art.
So hang on, if I'm getting this right, they weren't just spotting a gap in the market for, slightly better headphones, where they feels deeper than that.
Oh, much deeper.
They were selling, as the sources put it, access to what Dre heard in the studio, the clarity, the bass, the attitude.
Yes. That's the revolutionary part. It was this redefinition that just shifted the whole business model for this product category. It wasn't just about high-fidelity sound in the traditional sense. It was about delivering an experience, a feeling, directly to the listener's ears and, their soul, almost.
Wow.
Precisely. It was about elevating the simple act of listening to music into, a statement, a lifestyle choice, a cultural badge you wore.
Right.
They initially partnered with Monster Cable, remember them, to actually manufacture the first Beats headphones. They launched officially in 2008.
I remember the buzz around that.
Yeah, but here's the really crucial detail. Unlike so many celebrity endorsements where, a famous name just gets licensed for a fee.
Right, like a perfume or something.
Exactly. Dre and Iovine made absolutely sure they secured a significant ownership stake in the actual product, in the company. They weren't just lending their names for a check.
They were partners.
Co-owners actively steering the ship. And that foresight, that insistence on ownership, that's what paved the way for that eventual billion-dollar valuation.
And the payoff for that foresight, it was just monumental. 2014, Apple acquires Beats Electronics for a staggering $3 billion.
$3 billion. Still blows my mind.
It was the largest acquisition in Apple's history at that point, and Dre's personal payout from that deal estimated at over $500 million, $500 million.
Just incredible. It catapulted him into this entirely new stratosphere of wealth and, importantly, influence for an artist.
Yeah, influence beyond just music.
And what's truly fascinating, we connect this back to the bigger picture of wealth creation, is how Dre didn't just use his money to buy more status symbols. He actually leveraged his existing status, his credibility, his cultural weight, to completely redefine how money was earned in his sphere.
Okay, how so?
He fundamentally flipped the script on that traditional celebrity endorsement model.
Yeah.
There's that famous quote he has, and our sources really highlight it as foundational to his thinking. Don't get paid to promote products. Build the product. Then make others promote you.
Build the product. Wow.
That quote just perfectly encapsulates the mindset, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It's someone who isn't just trying to get rich. He wants to fundamentally control the engine, the mechanism of wealth creation itself. It's about building and owning the whole platform, not just, performing on someone else's stage for a fee.
That is a seriously powerful shift in perspective.
Yeah.
Build the stage. Don't just perform on it.
Exactly.
And the sources reveal there was maybe an even deeper, almost hidden driver behind this relentless obsession with ownership. It sounds like it was about healing some old wounds.
Mm-hmm.
It takes us back to, well, a pretty profound trauma from his time with Death Row Records in the early 90s. After helping build Death Row into this absolute monster, he walked away in 96 with basically nothing.
Yeah. Left it all behind. No masters, no back catalog, no leverage over the music he had so meticulously crafted. That experience, that wound, never fully healed, as one source puts it.
Wow.
And our sources strongly suggest Beats was, in many ways, the answer to that wound.
Yeah.
It was finally something that was unequivocally his, and no one could take it away.
That adds such a crucial emotional layer to it, doesn't it? That drive for ownership.
Absolutely. It wasn't just ambition, or some shrewd business calculation. It was this deeply personal quest, really rooted in that past betrayal and this intense desire for true autonomy, for sovereignty.
Yeah.
It underscores that for him, wealth wasn't just about the numbers on a spreadsheet. It was about achieving this unassailable sense of control and security that had been, denied to him earlier in his career.
Makes sense.
And it raises a really important question for all of us, doesn't it? How do our own past experiences, especially maybe those involving loss or perceived injustices or moments where we felt vulnerable, how do those shape our future goals, our pursuit of security, of control? What kind of wound might we be subconsciously trying to heal with what we're chasing now?
That's deep. So, okay, what's the core message here for you listening right now? This isn't just another story about a celebrity cash grab,
Not at all.
It's really a masterclass in building actual equity, in turning an image, a personal brand, into a tangible, enduring asset that generates wealth almost on its own. It just highlights that profound difference between, say, renting out your name for a fee versus truly owning the entire enterprise.
And the practical takeaway seems pretty clear. If you genuinely aspire to build substantial lasting wealth, don't just ask, how do I earn more money this month or this year? That's important, sure.
But it's not the whole picture.
No. The more profound question, the one Dre's fundamentally answered through his actions, is, what do I own that has the potential to generate value even when I'm not actively working, when I'm sleeping?
Right. Passive creation.
It shifts the whole focus from just active income to building enduring value that compounds over time.
And that leads to a really crucial reflection for anyone out there with a unique talent or some kind of influence. Are you primarily using your gifts to build up someone else's empire, to enhance their brand? Or are you strategically, deliberately building your own?
Dre's journey strongly suggests that prioritizing that ownership and control, even if it's harder up front, is the path to truly transformative wealth and, importantly, lasting influence. 2, the strategic play, identifying and dominating a cultural whole.
Okay, now let's pivot a bit. Let's turn our attention to what makes Dre's business story so incredibly compelling. Because he wasn't just a kingmaker in music, right? Launching giants like Eminem, 50 Cent, Kendrick Lamar.
I mean, his production credits alone are legendary.
Absolutely. But he also possessed this truly unique, and I have to say, incredibly disciplined career strategy that went way beyond the walls of the recording studio.
Yeah, by the early 2000s, Dre had already cemented this multi-platinum legacy. He was a colossal figure in music, just revered for his production skills, his ear, this almost uncanny ability to spot and nurture raw, game-changing talent. But what's truly remarkable, as our sources point out, is what he didn't do during that period.
Okay, interesting. What didn't he do?
Well, while many artists of similar stature were rushing to cash in, on the obvious celebrity extensions, launching perfume lines, maybe a fashion brand, doing quick, low-effort endorsements for easy money,
The usual stuff.
Dre stayed silent, waiting, watching. That's how the sources put it. He wasn't just waiting for the next hit record to produce or the next big artist to sign. He was apparently waiting for the next hole in the market, some fundamental unmet need or desire.
Wow. That kind of disciplined patience, that strategic reserve. It's so different from the typical celebrity rush for, immediate cash and maximum visibility.
It really is. It stands in stark contrast.
So he wasn't just chasing fleeting trends or the quick hit of a fast deal. He was observing the landscape almost like a hawk, looking for a fundamental gap.
Exactly, with almost clinical precision.
And he found it, didn't he? He identified what our sources vividly describe as the sacrilege of cheap, low-quality earbuds.
Yeah, that was the target.
For a guy who was, by all accounts, utterly obsessed with sonic texture, the nuance of bass, the whole immersive feel of music, the fact that everyone was using these flimsy, often free headphones, it was like an insult.
It was an affront to the art, yeah. People were consuming meticulously crafted music through what he saw as these plastic straws, thin, colorless, soulless, just completely missing the depth, the richness, the emotion the artists intended. It was this profound disconnect, between the creation and the actual listening experience.
That was his aha moment then.
Seems like it. His insight wasn't just about making a slightly better product in an existing category. It was about addressing this profound deficiency in the experience of listening to music itself.
Right.
The core idea, as our sources detail it, was to sell a feeling the power of a studio experience, but package it in a way that resonated deeply with street culture, sneaker culture, locker rooms, even the vibe of club DJ booths.
Okay, so the feeling again.
Always back to the feeling. And the key, really groundbreaking insight was this. The main goal wasn't just to make technically better headphones. It was to make headphones matter. Culturally, emotional.
Make them mean something.
Precisely.
And so 2006, he teams up with Jimmy Iovine. They found Beats. And right from day one, their vision was apparently super clear.
Yeah.
This wasn't going to be just another electronics company churning out hardware.
No, they aimed higher.
It was going to be a culture engine. They just intuitively understood that the product itself, yeah, it had to be decent, but it was secondary to the statement it made.
The badge value.
Exactly. They didn't lead with the tech specs or the jargon. They led with pure, unadulterated swagger, an aspirational image.
And that audacious strategy, it yielded results almost immediately. It was astonishing. Within just a few short years, Beats headphones were just everywhere.
You couldn't miss them.
Athletes wearing them walking into stadiums, in the locker rooms, rappers featuring them prominently in music videos, even rapping about them in songs.
Yeah, product placement gold.
And kids especially were saving up for months, apparently choosing a pair of Beats over other things they wanted. By 2011, just 3 years after launch, Beats by Dre commanded an incredible 53% of the premium headphone market in the US.
53%, that's market dominance.
Utter dominance. And what's even more telling is that this happened despite pretty consistent backlash from audiophiles and critics. They frequently hammered the sound profile, calling it overly bass-heavy, inauthentic from a purist standpoint.
Right, I remember the complaints. Too much bass, not a flat sound.
Exactly. They complained about that emphasis on low frequencies, the departure from that neutral sound signature that engineers often favor.
But it's truly remarkable how he just stayed the course through all that criticism, wasn't it? Because, as you're suggesting, he wasn't really trying to win over the engineers or the sound purists with some technically perfect product.
Not his primary goal, no.
Yeah.
His focus was laser sharp, winning over an entire generation. He made that conscious choice to pursue cultural dominance over product perfection in the eyes of the critics.
Which is a strategy many businesses would probably shy away from, right? They want the best review.
Oh, absolutely. They chase technical superiority. But this raises a really important question for any entrepreneur, any creator, any brand manager listening. Is your main strategy focused on being technically superior, winning over the critics? Or is it fundamentally about tapping into and fulfilling a deep cultural desire?
Good question.
Our sources really articulate Dre's profound understanding of maybe the most powerful rule in branding. People don't buy what you do, they buy who they become when they do it.
Wow, say that again.
People don't buy what you do. They buy who they become when they do it. Beats wasn't just a product. It was a portal, as one source called it.
A portal.
Yeah. When you bought a pair, you weren't just getting headphones. You were buying attitude, confidence, social currency, a visible declaration of your identity, who you aspired to be.
And that incredibly potent cultural currency, it translated directly into massive financial success. The Apple deal, 2014, $3 billion, cemented Dre's personal gain over $500 million. But the real takeaway here, the essence of his whole career strategy, it feels like, is how he built something that people thought was impossible before. A luxury audio brand born directly out of hip-hop culture.
Yeah, that's the kicker.
That not only sat on the shelves next to the established giants like Apple, Bose, Sony, but actually outsold them in its category. That's a masterclass in career strategy. It's not just vertical growth. It's this diagonal expansion into totally new categories, new psychologies, new kinds of power.
And His greatest move, you could argue, wasn't just the product itself or even the undeniably savvy marketing. It was his unwavering discipline.
The patience again.
The patience. He literally waited decades into his established career before putting his name on something of this scale, something so outside his core music business. And when he finally did it, it wasn't just to cash in on his fame or extend his celebrity brand.
No.
It was to fundamentally shift the identity of how an entire generation consumed music and, more importantly, expressed themselves through music. It was about creating a new standard, a new way to articulate belonging and status using a product.
It really is a masterclass in strategic patience and deep cultural insight. Most people, throughout their careers, they build by chasing applause, right? Seeking validation, engagement through frequent releases, constant public appearances.
The hustle culture.
Exactly. Dre, by stark contrast, built something that commands applause, that creates attention without ever seeming to beg for it. And that, at the end of the day, is how you build wealth that doesn't just vanish when the music stops playing or the spotlight moves on. 3. The unconventional habits. Precision, curation, and the power of silence. Okay, so this next part, I think it really deepens our understanding of Dre's unique approach. It dives into his, let's call them unconventional habits. He's often described by people who know him, and definitely in our sources, as not prolific, he's precise.
Not prolific, he's precise.
Yeah.
I like that. It speaks volumes.
It really does. It points to a very different kind of genius, doesn't it? One that's focused intently on quality over just sheer quantity.
Indeed. Our sources consistently highlight this. Dre has released far fewer studio albums, produced fewer tracks overall than many producers who are frankly a quarter as famous. Yet his impact, it's just disproportionately massive. He's universally revered.
Right.
And that distinction is so key. He doesn't release. He unleashes. It's not about the volume of output. It's about the profound, lasting impact and the absolutely uncompromising quality of each and every project he puts his name on and sends out into the world.
Every release feels like an event.
Exactly. Meticulously crafted to land with maximum force.
And his work ethic surrounding this precision, it's become the stuff of legend, hasn't it?
Oh, yeah. The stories are incredible.
We're talking about stories of him spending, 72 straight hours in the studio, just meticulously fine-tuning the same 2-second drum loop over and over.
Chasing that perfect groove.
Chasing that elusive feel, that thing only he seems to hear, that intangible quality that makes a track just resonate deep down in your bones.
And the hours. His sessions consistently start late, like 10 p.m., and often stretch tirelessly right through till dawn. Engineers apparently rotate out, assistants burn out completely.
But Dre keeps going.
Dre doesn't stop. He truly lives inside his craft, just immerses himself completely, constantly pushing the boundaries of what's possible to achieve that perfect sonic texture, that perfect feel, this level of dedication to the tiniest detail, this relentless pursuit of the ideal feel. It's almost obsessive in its intensity.
But his habits aren't just about sheer, almost brutal effort, are they? They're also fundamentally about curation.
Yes, that's a critical insight from our sources. Curation.
He doesn't over-communicate. He rarely gives interviews. He isn't active on social media. His approach is basically the polar opposite of what everyone tells you to do today for personal branding, right? Stay relevant, constant engagement.
He embodies this deliberate scarcity. It's fascinating.
And that silence you mentioned, it's clearly not an absence of activity or relevance. It feels like a very intentional design.
Exactly. It's strategic.
Yeah.
In a world where constant visibility is increasingly seen as like the ultimate currency, Dre has masterfully turned mystery into power.
Mystery into power.
Yeah. He doesn't chase the algorithm. He doesn't get sucked into the daily news churn. And he certainly doesn't seem to crave that dopamine hit from likes and comments. Instead, he builds anticipation.
Yeah.
Meticulously controls his output, his public presence.
So while other celebrities are posting daily updates just to stay relevant and keep their fans engaged,
Dre can just seemingly disappear, vanish from the public eye for years at a time. And then he returns with one product or one album or one strategic business move, and bam, it fundamentally shifts the entire culture.
It's true.
And this behavior, it's deeply strategic because, think about it, when you don't show up for everything, when your presence is rare, your eventual arrival becomes this highly anticipated event. It commands attention precisely because it's not commonplace.
That makes a lot of sense. And this rigorous, almost exacting approach, it extends directly to his collaborations too, doesn't it?
Oh, absolutely.
He's kind of infamous for being incredibly demanding in the studio. Not out of ego, the sources suggest, but simply because he refuses to release anything less than what he personally deems timeless.
Timeless is the standard.
Yeah. You hear iconic artists like Kendrick Lamar, Eminem, Snoop Dogg. I mean, titans in their own right. They've all spoken openly about Dre's demanding nature, describing how he pushes them way beyond their initial comfort zones, past what they thought their limits were, into this state of absolute clarity and undeniable excellence in their art. It sounds intense.
His core belief, and it seems to permeate every single aspect of his creative life, his business endeavors, is that there just is no good enough. There is only not yet.
Not yet. Wow.
This relentless pursuit of the ideal, this refusal to settle for anything less than perfection is just a hallmark of his entire process. And it wasn't just confined to music either.
Right, the Beats prototype.
Exactly. Our sources note that when Beats by Dre was in development, he famously rejected dozens of early prototypes. Dozens.
And not because they didn't work.
Not primarily because they didn't function technically. It was because they didn't feel like him. The texture of the materials, the packaging, the actual sensation of holding them, wearing them, and of course the sound signature, everything had to perfectly align with his deeply ingrained identity and his artistic vision. Not just, fulfill a basic function.
It really is all about that alignment, isn't it? That discipline to just wait, to resist that instant dopamine rush of a quick release or launching something just because the timing seems right.
Yeah, he refines, he revisits, he delays gratification until something feels utterly inevitable in its quality, in its impact.
Yeah.
He didn't ride the waves of fleeting trends or popular demand.
Yeah.
He sat still until he became the tide himself. That's a powerful image.
That really is.
And that's probably one of his most unique and powerful behaviors. It's a testament to why his career has spanned decades without just fading away. He understands that in the long run, the world doesn't primarily remember who is the loudest or who put out the most stuff.
No, it remembers quality.
It remembers who sounded right, who built something so meticulously crafted, so deeply resonant that it simply couldn't be ignored. So for anyone listening to this deep dive, it raises that crucial question again. Are you consistently producing sheer volume? Or are you strategically producing enduring legacy? Are you just, putting things out there? Or are you creating something with the inherent potential to stand the test of time, to truly endure? 4. The philosophy of sovereignty, walking away for control.
Okay, this precise approach, this deep-seated belief in ownership we talked about, it leads us directly to what our sources identify as his overarching life philosophy. A truly defining characteristic of Dr. Dre seems to be this. He has walked away from more power than most people ever get to touch.
It's a really striking statement, isn't it? But when you actually look at the trajectory of his career, it's undeniably true. The core info from our sources, it really highlights that dramatic departure from Death Row Records back in 1996.
Yeah, we touched on it, but the details are key.
At the absolute peak of its fame, its commercial dominance, an entity he co-founded, whose sound he largely defined, he left. With literally nothing. No masters, no catalog, no percentage of the massive wealth and influence he had helped build.
Just walked away. What was the motivation?
His motivation, as reported, was stark in its simplicity, but just profound in his conviction. Just a belief. If I stay, I lose myself.
Wow. If I stay, I lose myself.
Yeah. And the context here is absolutely crucial to grasp the sheer magnitude of that decision. Death Row was the undisputed king of hip-hop then, feared, respected, overflowing with money, cultural clout.
It was everything.
But as the sources detail, it was also becoming increasingly toxic,
Yeah.
riddled with internal chaos, escalating violence, stuff that began to overshadow the actual music. And Dre, the creative architect of its signature sound, he chose to walk away from everything he had built, a move that just absolutely stunned the entire music industry at the time.
I can imagine. He just left.
He simply walked. That's how it's described. There were no protracted legal battles trying to get his masters back, no dramatic press tours to air grievances, no public feuds playing out in the media, just a definitive, unyielding decision. Rebuild or rot.
Rebuild or rot. Stark choices.
And that single decision, it tells you almost everything you need to know about how Dre fundamentally thinks about his career, his life. He doesn't play for comfort. He doesn't play to maximize short-term financial gain. And he certainly doesn't play for industry approval or validation.
What does he play for then?
He plays for creative sovereignty, for absolute control over his artistic and personal destiny, which again raises that important question for all of us. What are you truly willing to sacrifice? What comforts, what established positions are you willing to walk away from in pursuit of your own creative freedom, your personal integrity?
That's a tough question for a lot of people.
It is. And to Dre, it seems ownership isn't just a financial concept or, a legal right. It's consistently described as something almost spiritual in our sources. He wants to own his choices, fundamentally, not just his work or his masters.
Own his choices.
Yeah. And that core belief, that unshakable desire for autonomy, for self-determination, it has profoundly shaped every major decision he's made throughout his career. It's like his compass.
You can really see it when you look back.
Oh, clearly. It's why he founded Aftermath Entertainment completely from scratch after leaving Death Row, rather than just joining an existing label where he'd have less control.
Right.
It's why he famously signed Eminem when basically every other label in the industry said, no way, trusting his own gut, his unconventional vision over the prevailing wisdom.
Huge risk at the time.
Massive risk. It's why he often took years between his own projects, steadfastly refusing to be rushed by external pressure or industry demands for constant output. And it's why Beats wasn't just another business venture for him. It was, in a profound sense, a boundary.
A boundary? How so?
Like a visible, tangible declaration of his self-possession, his independence. This is mine. I control this.
Okay, I see. Because for Dre, it seems control over the sound, control over the product experience. It ultimately equals control over the truth, in a way.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. He believes that whoever shapes the experience shapes the meaning. He doesn't allow others to define what good music is or what good headphones are supposed to be. He defines it himself with his uncompromising vision, and then the world kind of has to adjust its perceptions to his standard.
Which could sound like arrogance to some.
It could, but our sources frame it more as a profound sense of clarity. Clarity about who you are, what your artistic and business standards are, and crucially, what you simply will not compromise on, regardless of external pressures or tempting financial incentives.
And that clarity, that refusal to compromise, it paid off.
Hugely in the long run. As our sources highlight, this uncompromising stance probably cost him millions in the short term, maybe leaving Death Row, maybe other deals he passed on, but it made him hundreds of millions in the long run. It's just a powerful testament to the long-term power of sticking to an uncompromising vision.
So in a culture that's obsessed with partnerships, collabs, co-branding, cross-promotion, where more is more, seems to be the constant mantra.
Dre remains an outlier, yeah.
He just doesn't subscribe to that philosophy at all. Instead, he consistently bets on clean ownership, even if that sometimes means, fewer deals, fewer headlines, maybe fewer industry friends, and probably a slower path to overall growth compared to others.
And this philosophy, as our sources suggest, it definitely comes with its own set of challenges. It can be a lonely path sometimes. It's certainly slower than constantly doing deals.
Yeah.
And it doesn't always make immediate sense to others who are maybe playing a different, more conventional game focused on speed and scale.
Yeah.
But it's precisely why he's stayed, arguably, untouchable for decades. Because every single project, every product, every decision truly bears his full fingerprint. It's an undiluted, uncompromised expression of his singular vision and identity. There's no ambiguity about who's in charge.
So what does this all mean for us then? It suggests that Dre isn't really chasing expansion just for expansion's sake. He's chasing something deeper, like alignment.
Alignment, yeah, that's a great word for it. A perfect synchronicity between who he is as an artist, as an individual, what he builds, and what the world ultimately experiences and perceives from him.
It leads to a really powerful reflection for anyone listening. Are you optimizing your efforts primarily for external approval, for validation from others? Or are you fundamentally optimizing for your own internal truth, your conviction, that sense of deep alignment?
Because sometimes, maybe the most powerful and strategic move you can make is to simply walk away. Even from the very thing you helped build, if it no longer truly reflects the person you've become or the principles you hold dear. That act of separation, as painful as it might be, it can be the catalyst for truly sovereign creation going forward. V, the architecture of influence, selling identity, not just a product.
Okay, here's where, for me, it gets really interesting. This profound idea that Dr. Dre, never sold headphones. He sold what it meant to wear them. This feels like where his true genius for cultural influence, for strategic positioning, just shines brighter than anywhere else.
Wow. It's a truly profound insight into the mechanics of modern branding, absolutely. Our sources point out, Beats didn't just, appear on store shelves with a big ad campaign. They were organically woven into the fabric of culture.
How so?
They showed up prominently in music videos, naturally. On NFL sidelines, during crucial games, you'd see players wearing them.
Yeah.
In NBA locker rooms. And maybe most famously, even spotted on President Obama's ears at one point.
Right, I remember that picture.
The message was just unmistakable, and it was visceral. These weren't just headphones. They were armor. They were status. They were identity. Dre deeply understood that fundamental truth. People don't merely listen to music. They wear it. They wear it, yeah. And when music becomes visible, when it's embodied in a tangible product like Beats, it inevitably becomes tribal. It signals belonging to a specific group, a certain mindset, a particular vibe.
And Beats became this ubiquitous cultural badge, not really through traditional expensive marketing campaigns, did it? It was more through brilliant, almost insidious positioning.
Exactly, positioning over conventional marketing. They didn't start by trying to woo the tech blogs or the audiophile reviewers, which would have been the standard path.
Yeah.
Instead, they strategically infiltrated the most authentic cultural spaces first. You saw them in clubs, on stage during performances, organically embedded within song lyrics. Dre didn't have to ask people to simply try Beats. He created such an aspirational aura around them that people desperately wanted to be seen with Beats. That's not just basic product placement. That's profound cultural infiltration, making the product an indispensable part of a desired lifestyle, a visible declaration of self.
And this was an incredibly intentional and calculated targeting of specific tastemakers, wasn't it?
Oh, highly calculated.
Mm-hmm.
While Apple, back then, was often focused on, say, design minimalists, and Bose was primarily selling to a more middle-aged professional demographic.
Right.
Dre deliberately went after the one group that truly decides what's cool, the youth. More specifically, he focused laser-like on urban youth, hip-hop fans, athletes, creators, strivers, the out-of-the-look tastemakers who actually set the trends for everyone else down the line.
The ones who really drive culture.
Precisely. And this strategic choice completely rewrote the rules of influence. Beats wasn't designed to be subtle or refined in its technical precision. It was bold, it was loud, it was felt in your bones. It didn't hide, it declared itself. And by strategically leaning into what some perceived as weaknesses, like being overtly bass-heavy or having that flashy, attention-grabbing design, those very characteristics became its magnetic identity for its core target audience. They owned it.
So while the critics, the audiophiles, the tech reviewers are definitely scoffing and nitpicking, meticulously analyzing frequency curves and technical specs, our sources emphasize that ultimately it just didn't matter for the core mission.
It truly didn't seem to hinder them. Because while traditional audio companies were busy optimizing for technical frequency curves and achieving sound neutrality,
Dre was optimizing for something else.
He was optimizing for emotional frequency. He focused relentlessly on how it felt to walk into a room wearing something that made you feel untouchable, undeniably confident, and intrinsically part of this exclusive tribe. That's the real genius of power thinking, isn't it? Understanding precisely where your physical product ends and where your myth begins.
Wow, where the myth begins.
He understood that the story, the feeling, the identity woven around the product could be exponentially more powerful than the product's technical specifications alone, especially for that target audience.
So by the time Beats headphones were seemingly everywhere, popping up from celebrity selfies to major sporting events, Dre had really evolved far beyond just being a music producer or a shrewd businessman.
Much further.
He had become, as the sources put it, an architect of belonging, meticulously crafting this entire world, this community within a brand. People weren't just buying audio gear anymore. They were buying admission.
Admission into a cultural movement, yeah. A statement about who they were or who they wanted to be.
And that kind of influence, once it's established like that, it becomes virtually irreversible, doesn't it?
Extremely sticky.
Yeah.
Because once a brand becomes intrinsically tied to aspiration, to how people see themselves and how they want others to perceive them, it becomes exponentially harder to replace. As our sources eloquently state, you can't uninstall identity.
You can't uninstall identity. That's powerful.
Yeah. It becomes deeply woven into the fabric of self-expression. It's part of who you are, how you present yourself to the world.
So this is where Dre's legacy truly goes beyond just music or business. Through Beats, he effectively reshaped permission.
Reshaped permission.
Okay.
How so?
He made it okay, even celebrated for hip-hop to own luxury, not just borrow it, for street style to define premium, for culture to lead commerce. That's not just clever branding or effective marketing anymore. That's fundamental paradigm shifting. He actually altered the rules of the game.
He really did. He changed the landscape.
It leads to that profound reflection for anyone building anything, really a brand, a product, even just a personal reputation. Is your brand trying to just fit in with the existing norms? Or is it boldly trying to build the very room that others desperately want to enter?
That's the key distinction. Are you following or leading?
Because real enduring influence isn't just when people casually talk about your product, it's when they start talking about themselves differently because of it. That truly feels like the ultimate mark of impact and lasting cultural resonance. 6. The long game. Crisis as character, perception as power. All right, now let's pivot to one of the absolute defining moments for Beats by Dre, and really for Dr. Dre's entire business career. That Apple acquisition. It was monumental, signaled a whole new era, but man, it was also deeply controversial and misunderstood by so many people at the time.
Oh, absolutely. Back in 2014, when Apple, the company synonymous with engineering precision, minimalist design purity, this refined sense of understated luxury acquired Beats for $3 billion. Many folks in the tech world just could not wrap their heads around it.
No, it seemed crazy to them.
Our sources reveal that at that time, Beats was frequently dismissed by audio purists as basically all hype, no substance. Ridiculed for its perceived lack of true audio fidelity compared to established competitors. It was, in the eyes of many critics, a truly divisive brand.
And the criticism was just relentless, wasn't it? Especially from that audiophile community. Online forums, tech reviewers, they consistently nitpicked its famously bass-heavy tuning and what they saw as this inflated price tag for the actual sound quality you were getting.
Yeah, the value proposition was questioned constantly from a technical standpoint.
It seemed illogical, almost like an affront for Apple, a company known for its meticulous engineering and seamless user experience, to acquire a brand that was so widely seen as prioritizing style and cultural cachet over traditional audio substance. The big question on everyone's mind was just, why? Why would Apple do this?
But here's what Apple clearly understood, and maybe more importantly, what Dr. Dre had fundamentally bet on from the very beginning. Perception beats perfection.
Perception beats perfection.
Beats was never designed to please the critics or the audiophile purists with some perfectly flat frequency response chart. It was designed from day one to own the crowd, specifically that young, urban, style-conscious demographic.
The exact crowd Apple needed.
Precisely. This was exactly the demographic Apple wanted, desperately needed, to capture not just for selling more headphones, but as a crucial gateway to the future of Apple Music, which was then still in development.
Ah, the streaming play.
Exactly. This demonstrates incredible strategic foresight on Dre's part. He didn't build Beats to win technical awards or get glowing reviews from niche publications. He built it to win cultural real estate. And once he owned that undeniable influence, that mindshare, the rest, including a multi-billion-dollar acquisition by arguably the world's most influential tech company, was simply a negotiation about the terms.
Okay. And here's the real insight that our sources bring to light about how Dre navigated all that constant criticism. He didn't fight the crisis, he used it. He actually leaned into the hate.
Which is just a fundamentally counterintuitive move, isn't it? And brilliant. Most brand builders would panic.
Totally. Try to fix the image, put out statements.
Right. But he implicitly understood that every single time critics talked about Beats, whether they were saying it was overpriced, overhyped, lacking in technical fidelity, the brand stayed visible. It stayed relevant. It remained firmly planted in the cultural conversation.
Any publicity is good publicity.
In this case, maybe. Because paradoxically, every sneering comment, every technical nitpick actually seemed to make Beats feel more rebellious, more street, more outsider, and therefore more desirable to its core audience, who often felt similarly dismissed or misunderstood by mainstream critics themselves.
Wow, that's a deep psychological play.
It really is. That's the long-term game that most businesses completely miss when they're faced with backlash. They react defensively.
So while others panic, try to course correct at the slightest hint of negative feedback or public criticism, Dre somehow turned criticism into character.
Exactly. He grasped that profound truth. If everyone agrees with your product, if it's universally praised and just blandly accepted by all, it's ultimately forgettable. It lacks edge.
Right. No passion.
But if some people passionately hate it and others fiercely love it, if it genuinely elicits strong reactions, then it's alive. It has a pulse. It generates dialogue, passion, debate.
And that's how he strategically positioned Beats then, not necessarily aiming to be the absolute best in some objective technical sense.
No, but undeniably as the boldest.
The boldest. Yeah.
And bold brands, as history consistently shows us, they don't die. They evolve. They become these enduring conversation pieces, cultural touchstones that represent something far beyond their mere function.
So when that Apple deal finally closed, Dre didn't just walk away with, over $500 million in his pocket. He walked away having fundamentally reframed the entire category of premium audio products. He forced all the competitors to rethink their own strategies.
He really did shake things up.
He proved definitively that cultural capital, that intangible value of cool, of influence, of identity, can command premium valuations, even inside the most logic-driven, engineering-focused company on the planet, like Apple. To me, that is one of the most brilliant plays in entrepreneurial history, not just for the money, but for the sheer mastery of frame control. He controlled how the game was played.
Absolutely. He didn't let the world define his product or his brand solely by conventional metrics or technical reviews. He defined the world around it. He created a new context for evaluation where Beats naturally won. That's not merely reacting to market forces. That's masterful orchestration of perception and influence. It's about building this irresistible narrative that just transcends mere specifications.
And this leads to an even deeper takeaway for all of us, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Whether we're building a brand, a career, a creative project, whatever it is, in a world that's obsessed with short-term optimization, chasing clicks, comments, immediate conversions.
The instant gratification loop.
Dre played the longest game of all. He built what our sources refer to as narrative equity.
Narrative equity. I like that term. Because while traditional brands inevitably fade, fleeting trends dissipate like mist, and even groundbreaking technology eventually becomes obsolete.
Stories last.
Stories, especially the kind that tap into fundamental human desires like identity, defiance, self-worth, those live longer than any battery life or any product cycle. They become embedded deep in the cultural consciousness.
So here's the final question we're kind of left with, right? A really powerful thought for you to carry forward. Are you building primarily for easy praise, for immediate accolades? Or are you building something that has the inherent resilience to not only survive criticism, but to actually leverage it, to still rise and resonate powerfully despite all the noise?
Because the greatest test of your brand or your work isn't really how loud it launches or how many initial positive reviews it gets. It's how deep its resonance echoes when all the initial noise and the hype finally die down.
Yeah.
That's the real measure. Outro.
So after this whole deep dive, pulling apart the strategy, the mindset, what does it all truly mean for us? It feels like Dr. Dre didn't just sell headphones. He sold permission.
Yes. Permission. That's exactly right. Permission to believe that art, attitude, and profound ownership could not only coexist, but actually thrive together in the commercial world.
Yeah.
Permission that hip-hop, a genre often marginalized or misunderstood by mainstream culture, could not only influence luxury, but definitively define it on its own terms, setting new standards for what's considered premium.
Huge.
And, maybe most powerfully, permission that a black man from Compton could fundamentally reshape global technology and commerce without needing a traditional background in coding, without an MBA from some fancy school, and crucially, without compromising his artistic or personal vision in the slightest.
It's an incredible story of self-determination.
It really is. Beats wasn't just an audio product. It was always a deeply emotional product. It gave people this tangible way to feel louder in a world trying to turn them down, to assert their identity with both a visual and a sonic statement.
Yeah.
And that's precisely why it worked, why it lasted, and why it was ultimately worth $3 billion, not primarily because of patents or technical specs, but because of the sheer, undeniable power of perception and cultural resonance.
And behind all of that success was a man who was truly playing a different game, wasn't he? Operating by a blueprint completely his own. The Dre blueprint, if you will. Yeah. It seems remarkably clear looking back now.
What would you say are the core tenets?
Well, he never moved fast. He moved correctly with that deliberate precision we talked about. He wasn't everywhere, constantly seeking visibility. He was inevitable, always arriving with undeniable impact when he chose to. He didn't beg for platforms or constantly seek validation from the existing establishment. He built entire ecosystems where he controlled the terms. And most importantly, perhaps the most crucial lesson for any aspiring builder out there, he never sacrificed his ultimate power, his autonomy, for fleeting applause or short-term financial gains.
Long game thinking.
Totally. In an era like ours, saturated with constant content, relentless noise, this pervasive chase for attention, Dr. Dre reminds us that silence can be a powerful strategy. Precision is an undeniable weapon. And culture, when truly understood and leveraged authentically, is a currency far more enduring than any fleeting click or viral moment.
It's a different way to build.
He teaches us that true legacy isn't built by trying to do everything. It's built by doing the one thing so well, the world has to make room for it. Or just someone trying to navigate your own unique path to success, maybe ask yourself this. Are you building just products, things that fulfill a function? Or are you consciously building symbols, things that carry deeper meaning and identity?
Yeah.
Are you chasing those short-term metrics, that immediate engagement? Or are you strategically shaping enduring meaning and aiming for long-term impact?
Because the richest people in the world, and I mean that in terms of both tangible wealth and profound influence, they're rarely the loudest or the most outwardly performative, are they?
Yeah. No, often the opposite.
They're often the ones who can afford to wait, to be patient. Until their silence, their meticulous process, their carefully crafted impact becomes absolutely undeniable.
And in the end, maybe that's the real profound story behind Dre's empire. Not simply how he turned sound into money, but how he turned deep intention into irreversible impact without ever needing to raise his voice.
A quiet power.
Exactly. Now, maybe you listening, maybe you've never owned a pair of Beats. Maybe you thought they were overpriced. Maybe the sound profile just wasn't for you. That's fine.
Or maybe
Just maybe you did buy them. And maybe you bought them not primarily for the sound quality or the technical specs listed on the box, but for the feeling. That feeling of walking into a room with just undeniable confidence, of tuning out all the surrounding noise and distractions, just being in your own zone, of feeling like the main character in your own story with your own soundtrack playing, completely immersed in your world. If any of that resonates with you, we'd genuinely love to hear about it. Have you ever bought something not because it was objectively rated the best by critics or had the top specs, but because it made you feel bigger, bolder, more confident than you were before you owned it?
Have you ever consciously chosen identity over pure, cold logic and never regretted that choice?
Because sometimes maybe the most valuable thing we acquire isn't just the product itself. It's that elevated, more confident version of ourselves we truly believe in when we wear it, when we use it, when we embody it.